1.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Bertrand. I'm the chairman of the Permanent Building Committee. Tonight, we're going to give you a brief update on the sustainability issues at the proposed new high school, as well as a design update on the proposed new high school. We ask that you wait until the end of the sustainability presentation. If you have any questions or comments, that would be very helpful. And now I'd like to introduce Helen Pantini, who is of SMMA, the architects who are involved in the design of the proposed new high school.
Great, thanks, Joe. And we're thrilled to be here this evening. We from SMMA have been working on your project for over a year now, and we're excited to share updates related to sustainability as well as a general design update. We are currently in the schematic design phase. Schematic does mean we still have a long way to go, but we've also come a long way and are excited to share those results with you. This evening, I have with me Martine Dion, our Director of Sustainability, Lana Prokopets, our mechanical engineer, Alan Dahan, project architect, Brian Black, design architect, and Aaron Priscilio, civil engineer, and I also have Megan Collins, landscape architect. So we have a good group here to answer any questions you might have on the presentation ahead. And with that, I'm going to ask Brian to bring up the presentation. And I should also acknowledge Andy Ziskowski, also with sustainability, is here as well. And I will hand it over to Martine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Good evening, everyone. So as Mr. Bertrand and Ellen mentioned, we're going to have the first half of this forum will be dedicated to a sustainability update, and the second half to project design update. Next. So the idea behind our update tonight is that we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of where we are relative to the sustainability and energy efficiency goals, and we'd love to hear a little bit of your feedback. The one thing we want to make sure we focus on during this first half is really sustainability, healthy environments are the focus here. You know, the other criteria will be discussed at different upcoming or different meetings. So we wanna focus on the green stuff tonight. Next. And the idea is to get your feedback. That's part of the process with designing green schools. We wanna hear from the community. We wanna make sure they know how the project is processing in the different sustainable criteria or the different stages of the design phases. Next. So the first one of the requirements for the projects comes through the MSBA mandate for green certification. The project will be LEED certified, but beyond the LEED certification, MSBA requires 20% energy and water performance, and they support enhanced commissioning, which is really important to meet your goals once you occupy the building. Next. And alongside the MSBA mandate, we need to be cognizant of the state legislation right now that is really moving forward carbon neutrality by 2050. And one of its critical items and major tool will be the 2023 Massachusetts Stretch Code, which is going to be coming in being issued in early 2023. Next. And this is one of the most important item and criteria and feature that we want to make sure we don't forget about and fully integrate in the project design: environmental literacy, using the building and its features to support and complement an educational curriculum that embrace environmental leadership. Next. So to give you a little bit of an overview, we have a new energy and stretch code that's coming, as I mentioned, that's coming on board next year. It will be mandated next year, and that's part of the state's commitment and requirements per the law to update their energy code every 3 years. So the new code will be based upon IECC 2021, which, by the way, has basically integrated a lot of our current code in Massachusetts, our current stretch code, as part of this new version of IECC. And then the state is building upon that IECC 2021 with the new stretch code. And that's currently under review. The language is under review and planned to be issued January 2023. The one different thing this time with the update to the code is that there will be an opt-in net zero energy code option for the green communities. Cities and towns may basically automatically fold in the stretch code, which is called standard stretch code, or they may opt into a net zero energy stretch code. The plan is to have the code in full function by January 2023 with a grace period up to July 2023. And the cities and towns may adopt the opt-in and net zero code basically as soon as the code passes in January 2023. And then for this project, we need also to be cognizant of the fact that we are going through a Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act, MEPA, permitting process. And the energy requirements as part of that MEPA permitting, which is basically focused on carbon analysis, operational carbon analysis, will be reviewed by the Department of Energy and Resources, DOER. And those reviews for the past 6 years have been expecting all electric heating for the majority of the projects that we've done MEPA for. So something to keep in mind as well. And you'll hear a little later why I'm bringing this up now. Next. We had one of the other updates we wanted to bring to the community tonight. We've had a great meeting with the Wakefield Municipal Utility Plant. They've confirmed to us a few things. One, that they also are taking part of the state's goal for carbon neutrality, and they have a plan for electrification of heating. And so that's their preference. For the heating and cooling system, they like to see all electric heating and cooling, especially for projects where it's very feasible, low energy projects such as ours here. They confirmed that they're going to offer incentives for those all electric systems up to 250,000. There's no clear number yet, but that they said that's sort of their range. And the one really beneficial initiative that's in progress right now is the utility looking to do a microgrid that will serve both the high school and the Metro Tech school that's nearby. And that microgrid would host the emergency generators for both projects. It would support solar photovoltaic systems that would be on both buildings. So they are looking to support the installation of a solar photovoltaic system on the high school. So we're making the high school solar PV ready for their system to be installed if this initiative goes ahead, as well as energy storage. And they also will support 5 electric vehicle charging stations that would cover 10 spaces, and that's very well in alignment with the green vehicle credit as part of the LEED certification. The one other aspect of the discussion I want to have tonight is the all electric all electric heating and cooling systems. So MSBA requires, as part of the schematic design process and reported to MSBA, a 50-year life cycle cost analysis of all building systems. So comprehensive of all building energy systems, including the enclosure. And the differentiator between those, major differentiator between those three systems, the life cycle cost analysis, is the fact that they require a comparison of 3 different HVAC systems. So here on the board here, you can see we have air source heat pump system, ground source heat pump system. There are 2 variations of the ground source heat pump system as part of the analysis that we're about to complete in the next few weeks to submit to MSBA. Next. The project, as mentioned, is going to be LEED certified. And as part of that, and as part of the design of the project, we want everyone to understand that it's not just energy, it's a comprehensive application of the whole spectrum of sustainable design criteria. So the project will include water efficiency, sustainable site feature. Next, there's a couple of images that are gonna come up, yeah. We're paying attention to indoor environmental quality, and then of course, sustainable materials, as well as making the building ready with systems and signage that will support and inform occupant behavior once the building is occupied. Next. So this is a LEED scorecard, and we're not gonna go through all of the detailed criteria here, but this scorecard is continually reviewed and updated as we move through the design phases. So right now we're still tracking at least LEED Silver with the schematic design criteria that's included in the project. And just a couple of notes, there is a credit we pursue as part of LEED, which is tied to environmental literacy. There's a whole signage and educational tour and program that we submit to GBCI, but that is also part of the project and can be used once the project is occupied. And one other important aspect is the embodied carbon analysis, which looks at materials, construction. The structure and the enclosure is fully analyzed for its embodied carbon, reduction compared to a baseline. Next. And one thing we really, really want the community to understand is that the power of the building as a teacher, specifically through the sustainability aspect that it's going to have. From outdoor learning spaces and the signage. We talked about the features well exposed in the building. We really wanted the connection to the energy systems through data systems. We really want to make sure we optimize these aspects. These students are the workers of the future, and they're also the ones that will be dealing with climate change in the next decades. So this environmental stewardship literacy is really, really, really important. Next. So to give you a little bit more detail about each of those categories we talked about, in terms of energy efficiency, we talked about this all electric heating and cooling, the solar PV readiness. We're also going to have mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and building enclosure commissioning, which is kind of a peer review process that happens throughout design and construction, making sure that the building is built and functions the way it was intended. And then plug load reduction and management are really good systems that will give the options of monitoring occupant behaviors in terms of the use of electricity through the electrical outlets. And of course, passive house strategies and air infiltration reduction testing. I'll talk about this a little bit more, but this is about making the building enclosure ready and airtight and robust and well insulated. In terms of sustainable site, we are looking at, of course, the AV charging station. We talked about outdoor learning classrooms, making sure that we have all the appropriate plantings that will be drought resistant as much as possible. There's outdoor, patio green roof areas. And then the composting ready kitchen and student community gardens is something that is still, under discussion for consideration. The low flow fixtures, this is all water efficiency, low flow fixtures, 30% goal here for water efficiency reduction compared to the baseline. Limited irrigation, we need irrigation. We've seen this summer the drought and the impact of the drought. So limited irrigation, as efficient as possible. And of course, stormwater management. Next. And during your Q&A, if you have any questions about these, the idea is to give you sort of the breadth of what these involve, but we can certainly come back to these slides. In terms of materials, we have all of the basics of sustainable materials, recycled content, certified wood, environmental product declaration, which looks at the global impact of products in terms of pollution, and the health product declaration. And then we're also looking at, materials that are warm, biophilia, thermal comfort, abundant daylight. All of these are part of indoor environmental quality, low emitting material, the fenestration in the right place, so you bring enough daylight, but you're not losing too much on the energy performance. And of course, user behavior and plug load management, green education curriculum in terms of post-occupancy. Next. So in terms of the passive house strategies and net zero energy strategies, really the first focus is on the enclosure. We need to make sure it's highly insulated and airtight. And that airtightness is complemented by a whole building and air infiltration testing. That's part of the project. And I would like to note that that testing is actually going to be required in the new code. And then all of the high performance systems are part, of achieving the net zero ready in combination with the enclosure. Next. So within this phase and the next design phase, you're going to hear different metrics being used. You may have already heard them. We've been using for energy efficiency and net zero energy readiness in the past 5 years. We've been using EUI a lot, which is kBTU per square foot per year, energy use intensity. And that metric is important. It's taking all the sources of energy and converting them into that one unit BTU. And so we can compare different design options to each other. We can also compare different buildings to each other. And there's a couple of new metrics that are perking up relative to climate plans and the state goal for carbon neutrality. So the CEI is carbon emission intensity. So throughout the analysis that we are doing for energy efficiency, we also have a parallel carbon emission reduction that we include in the reports to MSDA. And then there is this TEDI, which is referred as TEDI. This is coming in a new code. So you're going to hear more about this. And it's a unit per square foot per year of the energy used for space heating only. The one thing we wanted to bring to your attention is that your existing building, which doesn't have cooling, ranks right now at about 91 kBTU per square foot per year for all of its energy. The building we're designing, which will be fully air conditioned, is being designed for 25 to 30. So it's 3 times less energy per square foot than your existing building. And in the majority of the high schools, sort of establish that target. Next. So the bar chart kind of gives you an idea between the current code and the net zero energy goals for 25 to 30 EUI. Next. And almost last but not least, this is just to give you a flavor of where this life cycle cost analysis it stands right now. And basically part of it is a payback analysis, and the 3 systems we're looking at, the air source heat pump, the geothermal, and the 2 geothermal options are being assessed in terms of their incremental cost and their payback, as well as their EUI and their carbon emission reduction. So this is where we are right now. It's still in the works, but relative to other projects, we are pretty much where typically these types of systems would end up. So the air source heat pump is at about a 6-year payback. And unfortunately, the ground source heat pump is a little higher, and that's due to the upfront cost of the wells. Next. So a couple of images that describe the potential of what could be done on the site in terms of native planting, and outdoor learning and student gardens, etc. I want to leave that that slide there and start the question period. I put that slide there because it's much nicer than the payback analysis table. So with that, I think we can open to questions.
If you have questions, please raise your hand if you're on Zoom, or you can use the chat function as well.
Joe, I do see one hand up at Marcy.
Okay, yeah, I just see it now. Thanks. Marcy?
You guys speaking to it? Good. Just curious, are you on Beacon Hill? That's really beautiful scenery behind you. I grew up on a farm, and a lot of our energy was organic and happened via nature. So I'm just curious about this manipulation of energy, but mostly wanted to comment on the beautiful scenery behind you.
Yes, thank you. It's a photo of Beacon Hill, but I don't live there. Thank you. I think Mr. Lyons had his hand up.
I just wanted to let you know, Martine, that Marcy had her hand up.
Oh, okay, thank Andy Bray.
Yes, just a comment and a question on the compost ready. You know, given the likelihood that at some point in the not too distant future, the state's going to require composting of large facilities like the district's kitchens, as they've been kind of moving in that direction, as have other states. What would it look like to make this project compost ready, and what would be the associated costs?
I do not have an answer for costs right now from the top of my head, but it is not a, we've done it in other schools. it's a choice. I don't think it's a matter of cost. It's more a matter of organizing the kitchen so that it's ready. It has a space for, you know, where to put the compost matter. And then it depends if it's being picked up. We have schools where it's put in a bin and it's being picked up versus being outside. So that it's sort of a coordination that needs to happen between the district, the kitchen consultant, to make it ready.
Okay, Andy? Christine?
Hi, playing with all the buttons. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. You showed an example of a LEED scorecard that had 58 points tracking for LEED Silver. Is that the scorecard you're using for this site, or is that just an example scorecard?
This is the school scorecard. That is not the final schematic design, but it's very close to final. I just want to warn a little bit on the 58 because we're well in the 50s, which is really good. Our goal is 50, and we usually submit more than 50 because the review with GBCI, USGBC, usually things happen and we lose points along the way. So we submit more than what we need. 58 is a good cushion, but we may not end up at 58.
You had a number that you were tracking as maybe as well. So are you fairly confident that we'll hit the silver status? Or, I mean, you're close to the gold border, but that's a bit ambitious.
Right. We can't get, we can't say we will get gold, but we're confident for silver. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions regarding sustainability?
Joe, we have a question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
And it is, what is the time frame for completion? We're looking to complete the schematic design phase and submit to MSBA on October 27th. And we're looking for a MSBA Board of Directors vote in December 21st. And we're looking for a town vote in January of 2023, which will put us on track for design, development, and construction documents to take us through the next 14 months or so, and then construction will follow after that. We're hoping to open the school by 2027, and that's with the demolition and field replaced. The school will open earlier than that, the previous year.
Right, 2026.
Yes, with final completion 2027.
Right. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we will go over to the design update. Brian, I assume.
Thanks, Joe. We'll continue on with looking at our latest progress in terms of the design, and I'll hand it over to our site team to talk about that part of the design first.
Thanks, Brian. It's really exciting to be here tonight to update you all on the the progress of the project, but more specifically for me, the site design. We've been busy meeting with stakeholders such as the district, members of the community, facilities, police, fire, the building committee. If you skip to the next slide, Brian, the current plan is starting to feel like an actual design. We've begun to see design of the student and the pedestrian spaces. Those will include outdoor classrooms, places to eat, places to play, and gather and congregate. Just to take a step back, we're all very aware of the limitations of the existing site. Slopes, wetlands, various fields, a high school facility, Woodville right next door. But in feasibility study, we concluded that the best project was a new building on the existing track, And then after demolition of the existing building, a new track facility would be built, and we make it sound so easy. The student and pedestrian spaces we are planning more specifically, and you can follow along on the plan that's shown. So if you start at the top, a new resilient track with a synthetic field. We're planning for open spaces. These include planning for play for all ages, students, community, spectators, families that come in to the site for the school and field events. We're taking advantage of moments of open space and use them for learning environments as well. Two formalized spaces, if you keep kind of circulating around the building, we call them the Central Commons and the Academic Commons. They are directly accessible from the building and will provide environments for the occupants, mostly the students, teachers, and faculty, whatnot. Next slide. So this slide starts to describe circulation. Vehicular circulation is proposed off of a relocated Hemlock Road that is to the left, to the south of the plan. It will be one way through the site. We have places for vehicles and buses. We've planned for arrival and dismissal to occur safely and an organized approach. We have a loading dock to the north that will provide places to have waste and recycling facilities. Will also be service and used to receive goods for the school and the district. We have so the vehicular circulation, you can see is highlighted in red. The blue highlights the pedestrian circulation. And then the green areas are once again showing the spaces where we have opportunities for outdoor learning, play, and whatnot. If you skip to the next slide. There we go.
So looking at the transition to the building design, I don't want to linger too much on information that you've already seen, but I think it's worthwhile to sort of maintain the continuity of our thinking as we go from step to step, and that everyone can really buy into the concepts here and sort of follow us along on this journey. The plan that is sort of sketched as a diagram in the center here is really strongly based on the educational program that the district has developed. It outlines the need for 4 academic clusters. Those are the elements in blue, and those are housing multiple departments, but those tend to break out into areas that are naturally adjacent to one another. So we've got a STEM or STEAM area, we've got humanities, we've got health, wellness, and athletics, and we've got fine and performing arts. And at the center of that cluster is a very active heart of the school. That's the dining commons space. And it acts as a semi-public space for certain events. It is really kind of the living room of the school. It's always being used, and we hope it's a place where students really just want to spend time and hang out after school, study, meeting groups. We'll see an image of what we have in mind for that space that we hope is a bit exciting in terms of what can happen there. We have many goals at a high level in terms of the facility, the site, and the program. And we feel pretty strongly that this diagram is really going to get us there to the next stage of the design. So here we have a more current plan. This is, as of today, this is what our plan is shaping up to look like. You can see the major components represented still from that diagram. There are a few areas that we've continued to work through. We've had a really productive summer working with administration, staff, and leadership. Even in the summertime when things are quiet, there have been a lot of meetings, and we've been working through the plan and really developing things. But this slide isn't yet sort of going into all that detail. It's really to show you kind of where we are in terms of a three-dimensional approach to the project. And obviously seeing this, sort of prompts a reaction. And this is kind of looking at the back of the school. It's oriented really to overlay with what you're used to seeing in the plan orientation. But you can see the elements, humanities and STEAM on the left, with outdoor classrooms and outdoor learning space and breakout sort of between those wings of the building. And on the right-hand side, health, wellness, and athletics, anchored by the gym, and fine and performing arts, anchored by the auditorium, are the major pieces on the north side. So north is on the right in this image. So as we do go into the plan in a little bit more detail, again, north is over to the right-hand side. So most of the sun exposure is on the left-hand side. And earlier on, if you recall, we have placed the academic wings of the building to be oriented toward the south to take advantage of as much natural light as we could get. And within those clusters, there's sort of an L-shaped geometric configuration, if you will. Because of the constraints of the site, which Erin was alluding to, we don't have a long, kind of building that can sort of sprawl out. We have a very compact building, even though the length in its entirety is over 600 feet long. The building has a series of circulation elements, the corridors, that loop back on themselves, and they place interdisciplinary work kind of at their center. So each of the orange spaces that anchor a cluster represents a technology or career vocational space. It's really hands-on learning that serves as a resource for the rooms around it. So for example, on the bottom here, the art classrooms, which are able to open a big overhead door out to the outdoor space for large projects, have at the center of their anchor the Mac Lab. So digital artwork can be done at the same time the 2D and 3D work is doing immediately adjacent. And there are other classrooms around that can create other adjacencies that will fold in with those programs. So we've really started to hone some of these relationships. As you come in the main entry, again, we've worked with administration on getting the building main office right up front. There's a secure entry sequence. We've met with stakeholders about safety and security. We have some really great consultants looking at the project, and we're building this knowledge into our plans. There's a student support area at sort of the hinge between the two wings on the left, where the career center is and guidance, and the special education administration is there as well on a separate side. So we've got a great array of different types of teaching and learning spaces, both small and large group learning rooms that are either breakout from classrooms or can be used to combine classrooms. We'll see when we go up to level 2 that there's a large group instruction space there. At the center, at the heart, of the school, in the dining commons, there's a stair element that provides kind of a three-dimensional seating opportunity, if you will. And we find this to be a nice kind of respite from the typical seating conditions that you might find in a cafeteria setting. And we have an image to share with you on what that looks like. Over to the right, again, the health and wellness program is there in blue, with locker rooms that are bracketed by the multi-purpose studio, which is a flat floor exercise and dance room, the fitness studio, which is a weight room, basically, with other types of equipment within it. The secondary gym on the right is housing the gymnastics program. And again, they are all, having immediate access directly to the locker rooms on this level. The gym is on the level above, directly stacked over those elements. So the yellow stair elements can be used for circulation up and down and convenience. Even though, again, the density of the project has demanded, a fairly unusual stacking and lifting of the gym up to level 2. We feel that, the immediate stacking and the vertical relationship is something that we've done before on projects. And we think, we really want to focus on strengthening those connections between and among programs. To the bottom of the page, you can see the entryway off of the bottom of the dining commons into the back of the auditorium. There's a large stage in the auditorium with a fly tower with full, scenes that can be hung completely above view of the aperture of the theater. Sort of high-level lighting systems and seating for 667. So again, that's accessed through the front door and traversing through the dining commons to get in from the outside. To the right, the gray sort of box in the corner contains the loading dock area, the WCAT space that's transferring over from the current school, and also the district office. Before we go up to level 2 plan, here's the view from the entry, coming directly into the dining commons after the secure entrance that you've passed through. And so on the upper left, you're seeing into the gym. Below left, you're seeing both part of the health wellness wing and the servery in the sort of middle left. And then the learning stair is straight ahead. That's got multiple functions. It can be either a hangout or it can be structured, as in having some kind of an informal performance there on the stair. As you look straight through out to the back, you can see that there's a possibility for connections to the outdoors, really strong outdoor opportunities for learning and fostering kind of a connection to nature. As we go up the stair and look back, we're looking at now the main entry down below, and then the media center wrapping over the front entry and really animating the front of the school. Looking to the left, we can see that there's a corridor that leads down through the academic wing, and it goes all the way to the outside. That's a new development that we've created. Here you can see on plan level 2, the spine element that stretches from the top of that stair at the dining commons in a straight line all the way through, creating ease of wayfinding and kind of an interior Main Street, if you will. Corridors in these plans are generally 10 feet wide, which is slightly more generous than the current school. Again, you can see the wrapping of classrooms on the perimeter. We've clustered science classrooms to the lower left, looking out to that outdoor academic space outside. And the science classrooms on the bottom wing, classrooms 2 and 6 in the plan, have access to a terrace. So you can see left of the LGI, there's a doorway out, and that could potentially be an outdoor classroom on a terrace that's raised up 1 level. To the right-hand side is the gym, the health classrooms, and there's also special education, OT, PT space, and an adaptive PE space associated with the gym as well. As we go up to level 3, we can see we do have the special education pieces in the dark green on every level. So really distributed throughout the school to be able to, really integrate those programs in with the overall educational mission of the school. Moving to the exterior, we're really excited to be going into the third dimension and looking at the outside of the building. This is a very plan heavy part of the design, this phase of schematic design. And we really need to lock in the plan with really great adjacencies and make sure that all spaces are accounted for. But again, we're excited to be looking at the exterior as well. We had a great workshop meeting today with a focus group to look at exterior design. We do want to acknowledge the district's kind of history of building materially. So here's a picture of district schools and their materials. We talked about potential exterior enclosure materials, which looks like will be composed largely of brick masonry, because this is really the most cost-effective and durable material that's out there, and is a little bit less impacted by the sort of worldwide inflation and supply chain issues that are affecting the construction industry. There will be some opportunity for some rain screen elements, and in windows and curtain walls, in keeping with our zero net energy ready goals, we'll have triple insulated glazing throughout the building. We're targeting a 25% window to wall ratio so that we can meet our energy budget. There are other sort of potential trim elements of metal, the soffit elements and roof screens are pieces that we're considering also. And then we'll have a light colored PVC roof, again, to help mitigate the heat island effect, to have a reflective roof. We want to acknowledge the architectural history of Wakefield. We can do that materially by using either red brick or a reference to a light colored stone, or a mix of the two. We've had good feedback from many about, the preference either for red brick or when I say red, there's a range of red to brown to orange maybe. But that family of brick is quite common in schools, and sometimes it's something that people are expecting. But there's been a willingness with Wakefield to consider, something that is a little bit of a departure. We've presented some design studies of elevations of the building. We're looking at some patterns that are both playful but orderly, and especially so when they meet the ground, that there's a sort of set kind of rhythm that we're looking at. So the rendering is representative of mainly brick with metal accents and with potentially a granite base for very high durability where the building meets the ground. We did look at and are looking at the potential of, again, a bit of a departure with a stone look, if you will, which could be achieved by either a light colored brick or materials that are laid up like brick, but have a different composition of the material and look like stone, and different textures and slight variations of color and modeling are available there. Again, the metal piece and the granite base there can be variations of color and texture, but those are pieces that we're kind of budgeting in as we go for our cost estimating quite shortly. We can create quite a bit of texture with the facade, and one of the comments and one of the things we're thinking about is how to create a little bit more kind of life and relief to elevations that can tend to be quite flat. There were good comments and debate about the notion of having the media center be front and center. I think that is a generally well accepted idea. How we render the front and how we kind of form the front of the building at that piece. We have a couple of options. We've had, I think, good feedback on all of it. And sometimes it's never, it's not always an either or proposition. Often we integrate good ideas and combine and reassemble. So we're in the status now of studying the facade, and we've got multiple options in play. We're going to have another focus group meeting in a few weeks, and we'll be developing these materials to the end of the phase through October. Happy to answer any questions about the design, or if you have questions for Aaron about the site design.
Once again, if you have any questions, please raise your hand or you can comment in the chat.
We have some questions from the chat. One is, consider geoposition of all glass side. It can bring excessive cold or heat into the building, thus requiring energy to offset it. And then another is on the design.
Would you like me to respond to that?
Yes.
We absolutely, sort of acknowledge that the use of large glazed areas need to be done really thoughtfully. We have a west-facing elevation here. So there's not a huge opportunity in terms of optimizing either solar gain in the winter or shading. There's not a, the shading scenario would be a series of vertical louvers on the west side because we are dealing with low sun. And definitely the sun control devices on the exterior are going to be a piece of the project and the design here. We have the options that sort of tilt the glazing out. They could perform a little bit better in the winter than if they were not trying to face a little bit south. We are a little bit, positioned by other sort of big forces to a building that is quite linear north to south. So we're going to react to that and have different performing window types facing different orientations. That's really how we're going to tackle that. And we will do energy modeling to confirm all of our losses and gains and make sure that we have a sensible approach to using the glazing.
Brian, if I might add a few things to complement your response. The project, we are doing energy modeling. The glazing may look like it's a lot of glazing, but actually we're targeting 25% of the enclosure, 25% window to wall ratio. So in terms of performance, I think we're in the right ballpark. I think here it's really a matter of comfort, right? In between for the glare. And also, this is going to be triple glazing. So in terms of thermal performance, it's going to be, currently the highest performing type of glazing. And we're going triple glazing because that's going to be required by the code. And it's also part of the net zero energy. And then Brian, on top of your, approach to exterior shading devices, we're going to also optimize the solar heat gain coefficient on the glazing as much as possible. There's really good glazing products now with clear glazing that provide quite a good solar gain coefficient performance as well.
Lynn, there's another chat?
Yes,
Question?
there's several actually. From Robin Greenberg, it says that on the design, what approaches is SMMA considering to get delighting into landlocked spaces like Fab Lab, small group spaces, and teacher spaces?
So it's going to be a combination of efforts and considerations. When we have spaces that are high in the building, we can use skylights to get light in. We do, on those spaces, intend to have elements of glazing, not necessarily fishbowl in appearance, but for example, opening a corner of a room can really make it feel a lot more open, and then coordinating those with openings into the hallway. And those are maybe even a bit more challenging in a building that is of this density, is being able to drive some daylight into the corridor. The fold that you see in the facade here has a curtain wall in the deep recess. So light will be coming in that channel and into the corridor behind it. And so we're trying to create these openings judiciously, because we don't have a lot of extra circulation space to work with. But where we have those breakouts and active corridors, we're trying to do that. And so borrowed light is one of the big ones. The LGI, the large group instruction at level 2, we're intending that to have glazing that can then sort of act as a lantern for the surrounding, as you say, the deep section of the building at the center. So we're working on that. At this stage of the design, those are things we're kind of just getting to, but we'll absolutely investigate all of them.
One comment about the exterior. On the exterior, go bold for 21st century building. It doesn't need to be red brick like our 19th and 20th century buildings. So just for consideration. And the next comment, Martine previously responded to about the energy model and triple pane glazing. Then there's another one. Please consider average student schedule and the time they have to move from class to class. Currently, I hear a lot of complaints about zigzagging and not having an opportunity for bathroom breaks.
All right, anything else, Lynn?
That seems to be it.
Does anybody have any more questions or comments?
Do you have a hand?
Laura Labonte?
Hi there, thanks. I just had a couple of questions and they're sort of unrelated, but the first one was around the outdoor space. While the outdoor space is amazing to have, we have one at our elementary school in Walton. I find that it really only gets used a handful of times because of our really extreme weather in New England. But what helps is when we have a tent. So we had a temporary tent for a while and we were really able to use the space when it was raining and all of that. So I was curious if there's something planned, like some sort of awning or something that would protect the space a little bit from weather.
Shade is definitely something that we're considering, whether by vegetation or by shade structural elements, but that's something that we definitely understand. I am a parent of a school-age child, and the only reason why he could attend kindergarten was because they were outside. So I appreciate your comments.
Yeah, I think more for me, it would be shade's important, but also would be like sort of weatherproofing if that's possible, just so it could still be used during the rainy days too.
I see. So you want the sides and the top?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty well protected from the sides. I was picturing almost like in a retractable awning or something off the side of the building that you could pull out if needed. I don't know if that would work with this design or not, but just something to think about because it did really help us use our space at Walton when we had the tent. And then unrelated, I was thinking about the parking. Will the new parking spaces allow for us to not have students parking on Farm Street anymore?
So as we all know, the site is very limited. We are trying to make the proposed parking as efficient as possible. We've found some efficiencies with providing some on-site parking. What this diagram doesn't show is some planned expansion of parking at Landrigan Field. And that will also serve during construction if it's completed, you know, in the initial phases. It will serve, and it will serve for the community off hours. So I really think that's something that's worthwhile to include in the project. Student parking is really an administrative issue. How parking works, we do intend to number all of the parking spaces in hopes that that the district might adopt some sort of permit program. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And then lastly, this is kind of like a Debbie Downer topic, I guess, but I was thinking about safety and security with recent school shooting issues. With all the glass around the building and things like that, are there measures you take and things that you think about in terms of safety from that aspect?
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, we've been meeting with a group of, you know, stakeholders. We've met with first responders. We have a security consultant on the project. And we've been talking through, you know, what those concerns are and how on other projects we've mitigated the threats so that the protocols can go into place. So it's a multi-layered approach, and we don't want to sort of go into detail on the call, but we are addressing those concerns. Some of those may materialize as, you know, sort of more opacity of the building, but there's also some aspect of being able to sort of see and monitor what's going on that leads to better safety and a better reaction. So those are all part of the equation when we think about this. It's the most serious issue that we can tackle, and we take it really seriously, and we're gonna you know, continue to do that on the project.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, is there any other questions or comments?
Yes, we have one. Will the track and field be lighted? Where are bleachers planned? So how much will they block the view of the school?
So we are going to be lighting the track and field. It is currently lit, so we will be providing lighting as it is today. We are expanding the seating program. So right now we're planning to seat about 350 spectators. It will hardly block the school. They're not bleachers per se, but they're more, if you think landscape elements like kind of block built into the landscape, it's going to run along the straight part of the track. Brian's kind of hovering where I'm kind of waving my hands. So it's not going to obstruct the view of the school. We're thinking very much about those views, and it's important to see the building.
I think a nice effect also of the positioning of the field at a mid-level between Farm Street and the entry to the school is that it creates a sort of a gentle grassy bowl between the field and the sidewalk. Now, I believe, Erin, there's going to be a fence between the track and the grass, but it's still, you know, I think it actually creates something of a very kind of slender linear park in a way that could be nice to sit on.
Luna, is there anything else?
Yes, comment from Andy Bray. It's great to see how the adjacencies within and across the disciplines are coming together through the schematic design. Thank you. Also have another one that said, I came into the meeting late, so forgive me if this was discussed. The proposed roundabout, is there an opportunity to have a set of lights instead? I appreciate more issues with the rotary. I think that you want to answer that, Erin?
Yeah,
Sure.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Joe.
The town engineer and the town people are requesting a roundabout. so that it has a calming effect on traffic on Farm Street, not only just here at this school, but also at the new entrance to the vocational school, to also contribute to calming of traffic, because I guess the history has been that people drive quite fast down Farm Street. So that's what they're looking for. That has not been finalized yet because we have to go before the Traffic Advisory Committee, but that's where we're looking at right now. You can add anything else to it, Aaron.
I think you said it well, Joe. Ultimately, the issue will be before the Traffic Advisory Committee.
I have one more. Will the field be dedicated to Sean Beasley?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have in the chat.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for joining us tonight. The Permanent Building Committee has a lot of more work to do, and we will be providing another public forum, I believe, Lynn, near the end of September. Is that correct?
September 28th, as of right now.
All right, as of right now, so that we intend to keep the community up to date on all the various design elements and the sustainability issues for the new school.
We hope to have a forum in October to discuss cost as well.
I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Good night.